Snapshot Null is the name of one of the more unique Minecraft mysteries I've come across. Initially, it looks quite similar to the other weird channels we've covered here at Lulyeahteam, with certain similarities to snippets, for example. But you'll notice that the channel where the videos are located is called Snapshot Null Archive. Well, according to the description, this channel is not the actual Snapshot Null, but simply an archive of that archive. The creator of Snapshot Null Archive is simply re-uploading videos from an old channel known as Snapshot Null, which was deleted under strange circumstances. Now, this sounds like part of the same Snapshot Null inside story, and like an interesting start to another strange web series created in that cube world. But Snapshot Null is an actual lost channel, which existed only during the month of June of 2020, and disappeared without a trace, to the deep frustration of the Minecraft ARG fan community. That makes it not only a Minecraft mystery, and incidentally one of the first web series of its kind, but also lost media, because many say there are still a lot of missing videos, and that means it's one of those mysteries that refuse to be solved, as no one knows why Snapshot Null disappeared, and the missing episodes leave us with a void that doesn't allow us to figure out what the hell the videos mean. Videos that frankly are pretty hard to explain. There have been a few previous investigations, and most recently, YouTuber xKluberplay did a little rundown of the series in disarray. But I assure you that even if you already knew about this mystery or had seen that video, we've discovered a lot of things never before revealed on YouTube, including new codes and secrets, a second Snapshot Null archive, and even an old post recently discovered where the creator explains why the channel was deleted so suddenly. So go get some popcorn and make yourself comfortable. Taking a quick look, we notice that all the videos are titled similarly to Minecraft Snapshots, which are development versions for Minecraft Java, and are uploaded by Mojang for players to test new additions, changes or features of each major update before its official release. These snapshots are titled in a very unconventional way, with names like 18W10A. Here, the 18 refers to the year, the 10 to the week of that year, and the A refers to it being the first snapshot in that week. That is, 18W10A would be the first snapshot released in week number 10 of the year 2018. So, just knowing the name, we can already date the release of the update. The problem is that the first video uploaded is of snapshot -3W21A, and that title places it in the week of May 19 of 2003, more than 6 years before the creation of the video game as such. The video opens with a panoramic view of a village in a strange state. All the villages are floating and much of the village has been replaced by strange bright red blocks. We then jump to the perspective of a player in a red sweater. He's in this village and in front we have two signs where there is automatically something wrong. Don't climb the tower, stay away, March 17th, 2020. Yup, seaweed is good, January 21st, 2020. That should not be possible. The player looks at the floating villages and comes across a new sign which reads, "I thought this was a single player world." And then the weirder things start. Aside from that, we see more signs. They say, "The Archaic was here. Boring Village LOL, July 11th, 2019. Stella, May 29th, 2019. No one I know." He keeps moving forward, snooping through the houses and comes across the ghost bell with a 2020 sign next to it that simply says, "Nope." The player extracts one of the red blocks using an iron pickaxe, and we notice that the block is called Fractured Mist. And that's when he sees the tower. He decides to climb it, ignoring the sign telling him not to. And when he climbs it, the bell stops ringing and he automatically goes down the stairs, standing completely still for several seconds while looking at the ground. As I mentioned, there were some previous investigations, and one of these comes from that mythical Discord server that has participated in so many Minecraft mysteries we've covered on this channel, taking a leading role in Grasswalker 15. Snapshot Null was the first mystery investigated by the members of this server, and they recorded all possible information from the original channel while it was still up. And among that information we can find the tags of the videos, which are the change notes for each of these updates. Added fractured mist, Union PTL, Herobrine removed. Those are the -3W21A snapshot notes, and no, I don't know what Union PTL is either, although Herobrine removed is a reference to that recurring Mojang joke. The best thing we can do is continue with the next video in the original upload order that we know thanks to records in forums and in that same Discord server. -17W10A starts with an image that lasts barely a moment. It's an image of a Minecraft inventory full of snowballs and end sticks, and for some reason some people think it's an abstract figure or Morse code or something, but no, it's actually quite simple. It's binary code, and if we convert it to text, it translates to archaic, the name of a player mentioned in one of the posters in the previous video. Now we see a player in a mine collecting iron and looting chests, but it's not the same player as before. He has a blue corner, and then we find out that his name is Crow Bowser. Crow continues his exploration as if nothing, but he comes across something that, to this day, is very hard to explain. Why these data on time values are so precise. 5. Why are the data related to geometry so useful? 6. Why are these components of energy density and energy density curvature explained? 7. Why are the attributes of these magnetic kinematics known with great precision? Many materials.
I never said.
In fact, all substances levitate magnetically on their surface due to the peculiar magnetic effect of their boundary conditions. I don't understand. Who am I? What do I want? Why am I here? If I don't understand anything, then this is a waste of my time and energy. Why am I having this conversation with you even after spending 20 minutes talking to the host?
Don't mention it.
I've had more than a little help from someone else while trying to make this all happen. Then yes, you can help.
Kill it now.
Sorry, I have to go. Yes, I was just as confused as you when I got to this part. Reading through Brickskoa posts several times, it looks like he is asking a series of numbered questions about physics and diamagnetism, or that he is reading such questions perhaps from a book on physics or something. Or maybe even this nonsense is because it is a base text for another code, using weird ciphers like Ottendorf, or numbering each of the letters or words. We will leave that part aside because nobody really knows what it refers to. But the next part is more curious. Bricksko has a purpose, as he talks about making all this happen, and he has had help for that. More importantly, Bricksko is not a player. We know this because no human player would question such existential things in a Minecraft game. He is an entity, and we can be sure of that once we read the tags in the video. Bricksko added, Herobrine removed, keep quiet or the host will hear about this. Ah yes, the host. A host is the owner of a server, the one who maintains it and lets it run from his computer. And it seems that for everything we see in Snapshot Null, there is a mysterious host above all. Someone important, from whom they must do hidden things, and about whom we know absolutely nothing. We are left with more and more questions. Who is Archaic? Who is that player who writes only in red text and appears again in this video? What is Bricksko's purpose? But wait, there are still several seconds left of the video on black screen, and if we pay attention, we will hear a message in Morse code. The next video is titled -7W7A. We see another new player with a black skin, called Java Knight 67. We can see him collecting food in a village, organizing it in chests, and he even has a little dog that he loves very much. He gives it food and cuddles it, and while he's smelting iron ingots and making an axe, he texts it, "Hello puppy." Java Knight goes back out to the village and a diamond magically appears in his inventory. He is puzzled but returns and happily keeps it in his chest. Without much thought, the player goes back out and helps the golem, saying "Hello golem." He wanders away from the village to explore and eventually finds a hole in the ground with iron in it. The hole leads to a cave and Java Knight sets out to explore it. After a terrifying noise, Java finds a zombie spawner, which initially scares him, but it won't be any enemies, so he cautiously returns and fills it with torches, writing, "Oh yeah." He glosses over the chest as you and I would, and among all these items, he finds something rare. A disc titled -7, which doesn't exist in the normal version of Minecraft, and has the same redness as the fractured mist blocks. Bad sign. Java returns to the outside, sees that it's getting dark, and lets out a curse in the chat. After a cut to black, we see that the next day, Java goes out to continue exploring, and spots something quite strange in the distance. It's two towers with rooms at their bases, connected to a giant purple cube made up of unknown blocks. Java Knight approaches the tower room on the right, but whatever he sees inside is strangely censored. He even tries to pick at one of the odd cubes, but can't do it with his iron pickaxe. Java Knight looks at the giant cube, shakes his head, and returns to the village, where he finally decides to listen to the record, making a record player out of the diamond that appeared out of nowhere in his inventory sometime before. Java Knight stops moving and stares at the ground for several seconds. And when he comes to, he is different. Java Knight murders his dog and then murders all the villagers. Once he's done, he starts running frantically in the direction of the structure he found minutes before. That was even weirder than the previous video, and I'm not even showing you the tags yet. Added compressed rift, compressed static, entity 731, Zenoro. Herobrine removed. Okay, compressed rift and compressed static seem to be the strange blocks that conform the structure that Java Knight enters at the end. I'm especially curious about compressed portal because it seems to explain what the hell the purple structure is, but the weirdest are entity 731 and Zenoro. We have no idea what they are, and after much discussion on the Discord, it was theorized that one of them was what was censored in one of the rooms next to the portal, but there was no explanation as to why two entities were mentioned instead of one. Although perhaps it had something to do with the player clearly having been manipulated into finding and listening to the -7 disc. At this point, everyone was very confused. There was no clear narrative, just odd incidents from different players. But clearly something had to tie them all together. Judging by the descriptions, it could be the same weird Minecraft client, a series of weird versions tried by different players. This could also explain why the snapshots had such strange numbers. Bearing in mind that the version in the latest video, 7W7A, would date from 2007, although we already established that whatever the numbers mean is not to do with dates as with a normal snapshot. One idea about the meaning of these numbers comes from the description of the channel, which says that whoever uploads the videos receives them from a place that is neither dream nor reality. It's a very strange description because it points to something in between. Now no one knows what exactly it refers to, but among the popular theories was that it was a simulation or an allegorical representation of something, or, an extra-dimensional Minecraft version. At this point, either theory works. If so, it makes sense that these codes don't conform to any timeline, though they most likely mean something else. But no one knows what they refer to, and aside from that, they all have a subtraction sign before the number. They are negative snapshots, and it was never explained to us what the fuck a negative snapshot is. Beyond that, there wasn't much to explain to the first videos, except for a strange theory. If we look carefully at the previous video, we will notice that when dying, Crow Bowser leaves behind several items, among which we can find a diamond. And precisely in this last video, a diamond appears out of nowhere, practically falling from the sky to the player, and it is what makes him able to hear the disc that he finds later, and that makes him super aggressive. Now this may have been done by, I don't know, Sonoro or the 731 entity, but if you run the audio from the beginning of the video through a spectrogram, you'll see an image quite similar to Brixgoa. What's interesting about all this is that just before killing Crow Bowser in the last video, Brixgo says, "So yes, you can help." And just in the next video, a diamond appears out of nowhere. In other words, the theory goes that Brixgoa used Crow Bowser's diamond to manipulate Java Knight, and for the strange events in this last video to happen, making him the one behind it all, and that it's all part of that mysterious purpose. The next video, titled -12W30A, starts with a strange image. It's as if someone is looking at the moon from underwater, and at a column that is part of a larger L-shaped structure. After a sudden cut, we see gameplay of a player fishing. He is an unknown player, and at the moment of fishing, he receives a rod enchanted with Curse of Vanishing. Actually, everything looks quite normal. The player returns to his hut, puts things in his chest, cooks meat, and then goes back to fishing. Interestingly, he looks at the sunset constantly, as if he is waiting for night to come. As soon as night falls, he decides to go to sleep. We are in a strange space, as if in a dream. We have floating drowns, and the dock that had once been used for fishing is now a giant platform stretching out into the ocean. Just like in a dream, the bridge is broken, but the player can walk across it in mid-air without any problem. Upon reaching the end of the platform, the player finds this. Several Endermen submerged upside down in the water, still alive, even though the water should kill them. The player goes back over the platform but goes another way, where everything looks weirder and weirder. Now there are glitched wooden blocks, and after a while the player ends up in a long corridor where there is a cut in the recording. At the end of the corridor there is a hole in the bridge, and the player jumps into the water. It's a pretty deep hole, and the player should drown, but it turns out he doesn't need to breathe, more and more similar to a dream. And then we see this. This is the same mysterious perspective from the beginning. The player lies down to sleep, and in the chat we see respawn point set. 1 down, 16 more. Yeah, I have no idea what just happened, and the labels aren't really helping. Added Doc's chamber pocket. Defected wood. Can players find each other in the void? Force them here. Doc's chamber pocket seems to refer to the underwater chamber that the beds have. And defected wood clearly are the glitched wood blocks we see throughout the video. But what's interesting is the last sentence. If players can find each other, it may be a single world, or at least multiple worlds connected by this nothing. And for some reason they want to force them into this underwater chamber, and they need 16 more players. Checking Discord logs, it turns out that before the release of the last 2 videos, the video tags -7W7A changed, and a message was left. Sorry if I took it too far for you, Java. I get a little excited from time to time, but is there really such a thing as time here? Leaving aside that it sounds like whoever writes this knows Java personally, it doesn't sound like someone talking about Minecraft. Again, as with the conversation with Brixgoa, it sounds like this whole thing goes way beyond just a video game, but they're talking about gamers, right? How can they talk about gamers and at the same time a snapshot where time doesn't exist? I think we should move on. The next video is titled -19W14A. As with the previous videos, it's about a new player, this time with a green skin. And we are again in a village, but it's a very different village. It's full of blue-green glitched blocks, as opposed to the red fractured mist blocks of the other village. Also, it is full of armor stands everywhere, and the player is delivering strange flowers called diminished flowers to different specific armor stands in different houses in the village. This is very interesting because this is the first player to have a goal other than playing the video game, and because towards the first minute of video, we see something very disturbing. Love you, mom. See you soon. The player delivers the last of his 5 flowers to a house on the hill and then starts behaving very strangely. He walks to a specific spot, never mind hurting himself, and stares at a tree without moving for the last few seconds of the video. But the really weird stuff is in the tags. In addition to the update notes on this snapshot, there is another line of text which reads as follows: Boron Place, Daisy X Brittle, Vix Goat, MC Lovergirl, 333, Moss Goon. These are player names with no explanation and no direct connection to the story, but they are 5 different players, just like the 5 armor stands that the player delivers those flowers to. Could it be possible that those armor stands are the players? That they are people? Well, it sounds deranged, but that could explain the message of the player missing his mother, and it would also give us a little more context to the update notes hidden in the tags. Added, diminished flower, fractured influence. Diminished influence. Who? Where? Whoever writes the update notes is just as confused as we are, but at least this way we know a little more about what the player was doing. He was decreasing someone's influence over these players by making use of those flowers. As with the previous videos, we're left with a lot of questions and almost no answers, but there are some other weird things in this video. For example, it has some very strange music, but it doesn't seem to have been added to the video. It seems to come from inside the game, and if you pay attention to the stereo sound, especially towards the end of the video, you can tell it's coming from the cliff on the left side of the player. And the player is also weird. Apart from the fact that he has an objective and wants to decrease someone's or something's influence on those players, he is playing in peaceful mode. Something quite evident if we notice that he recovers life automatically after falling from the hill. But before we get into crazy theories, we still have one last video left. -7W7B. The video starts with a spooky image of a Minecraft disc, probably -7. The gameplay starts with yet another player, and we are in a clearly damaged world. The sun cycle is somehow jammed, and what appear to be towers in the distance are actually pieces of the world that were pulled upwards. We even have floating villagers, so it looks like what happened in the other videos also happened here. The player is interested in the tower on the right that has a mine inside and a chest inside a minecart. The player decides to go up to check it out, to see what he can get, but they are not resources. It's 2 books, which I'll read right now. Saw a kid running around spazzing his head and killing villagers. The most edgy crap I've ever seen, almost laughable. Kids do the strangest things. Ah, okay, that reminds me of the Javanite massacre. But before we talk about that, the next book is even weirder. I think the kids are gonna be alright. I know we've had to come back once or twice. Why are you looking at me so surprised? Okay, that last one got a hell of a lot weirder than normal for me, because it sounded almost like a poem or something. And well, it turns out I'm not crazy, because someone figured out that it's the lyrics to a song called Francis Street by Kid the Band. Which makes it a hell of a lot weirder. Why the fuck would someone write a piece of a song in a Minecraft book? After that, the player starts exploring the village, and when he enters the second house, we notice that it's pierced by a tower, but still, it's evidently the same house from Javanite's video. It's in the furnaces with the ingots inside. There's the record player and there's the -7 record. The player puts it on the turntable but removes it before something horrible could happen. And in case you had any doubt that it's the same Javanite village, the player receives a diamond in the same way by passing through the same place as the Java video. However, the player needs to eat, so he collects carrots and wheat to avoid starvation. He then wanders away from the village, crossing paths with a merchant villager, and like a good Minecraft player, punches him when he sees that his inventory is trash. Slowly, the player approaches where the 2 towers and the portal from the other video were, and the world changes as he gets closer. It's very gradual, but eventually the sun fixes itself, and when one of the towers is seen in the distance, we can see that everything is desolate, in exchange for the vegetation-filled landscape of the other video. The portal seems to be deactivated, and only the tower on the left is connected. In fact, the tower on the right, which had something on its base but had been censored, is now damaged, and the base is destroyed, exposing what was inside. Some incantation symbols that say something in a loop. If we translate them, they say aware over and over again. The player notices that the tower is connected to something in the distance and decides to go check it out. The lightning has made a hole in the mountain and desolated everything around, and as we get closer, we notice that it is connected to what appears to be another portal, but incomplete, with an end crystal discovered inside, and the player is overcome with curiosity. The player moves forward, having gained over 17,000 levels of experience, and finds the remains of someone. They are the same items Java Knight was carrying before listening to the disc, which means we know he died seconds after entering the portal. Strangely, there is also a creeper head, something he didn't have on him. The player can't pick up the items, and as we move forward, we can see a hole on the right side of the tunnel. It is a room made of wood, with windows, flowers, and a bunch of beds on top of each other, but it seems to be just as possessed as it was on the first chapter. Aside from the fact that it is obviously being infected by these purple blocks, it has a door that opens and closes frantically, and behind a window we can see armor stands spawning. The player goes back out into the corridor, and we see a room that appears to be a miniature representation of the End's towers, but instead of using End's crystal blocks, they use their item version. It's odd, because it looks like they're trying to replicate a room in End's towers, but they don't quite get it right. Up ahead, there is an actual End crystal. As we get closer, we see a very curious monologue. Something I should mention is that in the original archive this is impossible to read, but a week ago a repository was discovered with the videos saved in high definition, and I managed to acquire them. That in fact is why in this video everything looks better quality than in the archive, and that is why we can finally analyze this final text. Something that has evaded all those who tried to explain Snapshot Null. So the MRSE has been a slow process, but I can say that I am making some progress. Once I finally create the perfect procedure, then maybe the host will let me use these instead of the stupid EC it forces me to use. So something very interesting happened today. A kid found one of my lost RMs. He decided to listen to the record. I was going to stop him, but I was very curious to see how this half-baked record was going to work. Interesting results. He became half player, half entity. A very aggressive entity. I could tell that the boy and the entity had a fight, but it looks like the entity defeated him. Overall, this seems to prove that music discs can be very reliable. It just needs a better procedure. The player sees the disc in his inventory, realizing what he found, and after exploring a bit finds another tunnel under the glass.
You're not going anywhere.
That explains a lot. Java Knight was an innocent victim of MREC. Analyzing the text, MR clearly stands for music record. So the leading theory is that MREC stands for music record entity containment. Those behind Snapshot Null are clearly experimenting with the players led by the host, something reinforced by the message in the tags. Added static pocket. Some seem to perceive that they are recording while others do not. Very interesting. And that's the answer. Snapshot Null is part of a giant experiment to link entities with humans by the host and those under its control. But the Java Knight incident did not come from their side, but was a separate incident, most likely orchestrated by Brixgoa, who, while he can talk to the host and all that, clearly has his own purposes. Just before the channel was removed, it was discovered that the tags mentioning Zonoro and the 731 entity in that video from earlier mentioned them as one entity. That is, Zonoro is the 731 entity, and the reason it was in the tags in that video was because it was trapped in -7's disk. When the player stood still looking at the ground, the entity began to possess him, and this is something that happens on several occasions. The first time being when the player climbs the tower in the first video, explaining everything that happens there. Another important entity is whoever is writing in red text, dubbed red text by the researchers. Thanks to the events of the last video and his conversation with Brixgoa, it is obvious that red text is malevolent and was the one who trapped and perhaps killed Java Knight. Most interesting of all, it seems that many of them, if not all, are artificial intelligences or entities. Or NPCs basically. And this is the most important point. It is obvious that the players are not just players. In the second to last video, we had the message of a child missing his mom, something that only makes sense if he is physically inside the game, which brings us to a strange theory that could explain this whole thing once and for all. There seems to be a lot of abstract representations of human elements in the videos. The first video has posters of the players' thoughts. The dream video has beds for 17 players. The second to last one has armor stands representing players, and the last one literally has someone's thoughts, who after talking about a crazy kid he saw, writes lyrics to a song about kids. Aside from that, there's also that weird room at the end of the video. Maybe that's how the worlds are linked. Fragments of each player exist in all the worlds. That's why we found that song about children. The player simply remembered the song as he wrote about the boy murdering the villagers, and this thought registered because his mind itself is part of the server. Whatever is going on affects the players mentally and physically, and perhaps that is why the diminished flowers were being delivered to specific characters, trying to keep them out of the host's reach. That's why it was somewhere between dream and reality. It's neither. It is something more like a simulation or a digital repository where they kept the fragmented minds of various players as part of an experiment that was never fully explained. We should still keep in mind that this is an unfinished story. We will never know what Brixco's plan was, who the host was, or who the hell Archaic was. It seems that everything pointed to a story with several factions, with innocent players trapped in the snapshots and being replaced by entities, but beyond that, we can't know more. Or well, not much. Shortly after the release of the last video, the channel disappeared without explanation, although we know thanks to the community on Reddit that it had to do with the appearance of a user named Etenema, someone who seemed to be part of the story. But the descriptions of the videos changed to say that it was fake and that it was just someone looking for attention. And days after the channel was removed, a user named Forgunafossi posted on the subreddit that he was the creator of Snapshot Null, and it appears that he was. He explained that he simply wanted to make a story where he talked about an entity called Null, a story similar to Petscop, but he had no concrete plan, and as time went on, he simply lost track of the story and became frustrated from critics and people who wanted to latch on to the success of the series, such as Etenema. So, he simply wiped his story off the face of the earth, but at least now we could more or less understand what it was all about. And after all, it was thanks to Snapshot Null that there are so many Minecraft mysteries now, because it was what started the huge community of Minecraft ARGs that exists right now, so no, it wasn't a failure. Not at all. So I hope you liked this video. Like it if you did. Thanks a lot to user Cheeto for uploading the HD file of Snapshot Null, and subscribe for more videos like this one. Remember to brush your teeth regularly, and I hope I get over this flu before the next video. Bye.